Good
Welcome.
morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Perfectly Planted. I'm your co-host, Bethany Schwerin. If this is your first time joining us on Perfectly Planted, welcome. If you are a member of our Perfectly Planted community, thank you so much for being here and joining us today. Daphne, it has been a few weeks, hasn't it, since we've done one of these? And I know that you've been busy. I've been busy. How are you?
That's May. Good morning. I'm doing very well, thank you. And it has been a few weeks, and I'm sad because I miss seeing you.
I know I miss
Uh,
seeing you too.
yes, I think we've both been busy. I know that you've been busy with the boys.
That's an understatement, Daphne. Come on. We know that. We know that. I know you've been busy. I mean, with your new position with the vegan gym. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely, would love to. So I'm probably now in, let's see, this is end of probably week 8 of being a health coach at the vegan gym, which is the leading vegan health and fitness online training platform globally. So we have a global community, we have global coaches, and I'm just having a wonderful time. We had the 2022 retreat that finished up early October, and I'll put a link in to the show notes so that you can see an amazing video from the retreat. And we're already gearing up for the retreat 2023. I did probably overextend myself during Capture the Flag at the retreat. And so recovering from a hamstring injury, which
Oh
has been
no.
oh, yes, yeah. I don't know if you've ever played Capture the Flag?
No, I haven't, but I saw the picture of your team on social media and you guys were fierce. I mean, you were coming out with smoke. It was like it was an introduction to your team and I was like they're going to win. They're going to win. They're going
Oh,
to win.
well, we didn't win the cup this year. But we are going to win next year, and I will be fully recovered by then. So, nursing my hamstring back to health, and would love to chat about my experience with healthcare, which has been interesting. Um, the vegan gym's also growing. So, anyone we're looking for vegan health and nutrition coaches. So, if you are a vegan coach and looking for an opportunity to join a world class team, I will put a link to our careers page in the show notes too. And probably the only other thing that's going on is and I'll put a link to the show notes. I was blessed to be a guest on the Wellness Paradox podcast,
Mhm.
where we actually had a great conversation about health equity and physical fitness.
Oh yeah. I know that's a passion of yours and mine, that health equity and fitness for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely would love to see that. So Daphne, today we're going to be reviewing one of our books and I will have to say, let me pull it up here. It's Happy Mind, Happy Life. I want to say Dr. C. You could probably Chatterjee.
Dr. Chatterjee? Mm-hmm.
Chatterjee. Um, so he is I know you're going to introduce him in a second, but let me tell you something. So far, when I read this, when I first got this book, so my book fairy, you gave me this book, and I thought, okay, happy mind, happy life. Yes, no, we know. And this isn't to say that this is just look, people don't judge a book by its cover, right? Like never do that. And I certainly did for a second because I thought, okay, I had low expectations for the book and what I was going to gain from it. And then I opened it up and I was like, whoa, wait a second. And it blew my mind. It's one of my favorite books to date. And I know you mentioned he has like 5 other books,
Mm-hmm.
and and I plan to pick the next one from there as well. So anyway, did you want to tell us a little bit more about Dr. Chatterjee and his background?
Absolutely. So I've been following Dr. Rangan Chatterjee for years. As you said, this is the 5th in his series of books. Somehow he manages to write a book almost a year, which is, I think, an amazing feat. But he has a really long list of accomplishments, and I'll put a link to his website on the show notes. But I just wanted to, pay him a tribute because he has been such a leader in this community of lifestyle medicine. So, Dr. Chatterjee is a British physician, author, television presenter, and a podcaster. And I would highly encourage listeners or viewers to subscribe to his podcast because it's great. He is best known for his TV show, Doctor in the House, and for being the resident doctor on BBC Breakfast and as a regular commentator on BBC Radio. He has been in medical practice for 20 years, and he is definitely an international leader in lifestyle medicine. His other books, and I definitely have all of them, include The Four Pillar Plan, The Stress Solution, which definitely I probably could reread again,
Yeah.
uh, Feel Better in 5, and then his fourth book was Feel Great, Lose Weight, and this is his fifth.
Yeah, he's amazing, and some of the things that he talks about in this book really resonated with me, and I think it'll resonate with a lot of you, our viewers and our listeners. I will say that it starts out with a stool visual, a three-legged stool visual, and that essentially is your core happiness. And he talks about how to continuously balance those three legs of the stool. I know we're going to dive into each of the legs and what they mean, but I want to say that it's essentially your base foundation. I mean, whether or not you want to call it a pillar or a leg to a stool or whatever, I mean, that essentially is your base foundation for core happiness, which everybody wants to, live a happy and fulfilled life. And one of the things he talks about is really there's nothing that you can have to make you happy, right? The happiness comes within. And I know we're going to get into that a little bit later.
Besame, you're right. And, it's funny because we were chatting before we went live. And, one of the reasons I picked up this book is because I still think I continue to struggle with understanding what happiness is and how to achieve happiness. And you're right, happiness is not what you have. Um, and I know we'll talk a little bit about the want brain, but it's also not derived from what you want. It has to be something that is core to you. And I like the three-legged stool analogy. I mean, the pillars are great, but when I think about pillars and balancing something on a pillar, if one pillar falls down, you can still kind of have that top of that top beam or whatever you want to call it balance. But with the stool, if one leg of the stool is off kilter, the whole stool is going to tip.
That's
And
true.
so the three legs of the stool that Dr. Chatterjee describes are and I think of them as CAC, contentment, alignment, and control. Um, and the foundation is exactly as he describes it. And each one of those legs is very important. So contentment, and I'll describe these as Dr. Chatterjee describes them in the book. Contentment is being at peace with yourself and your life decisions, which is hard.
It's hard.
And remember that all of these things are fluid, and that your stool is not always going to be 100% balanced at every single phase of your life. Alignment, I think of this as showing up who you are and not hiding your core beliefs. So, a lot of us aren't always comfortable in our own skin. And I think going back to what we were talking about before we started, some people show up as people think who they should be,
Mhm.
not who they are. And
Mhm.
so, the person you want to be and the person you are, um, you need to show up as that person every day to the outside world. Otherwise, are you in alignment with you? And then the third leg of the stool, and this one is a tough one for me, is control, because I have always been a control freak, but I've also learned that I can't control what happens and I can't control other people. I can only control how I respond to them. And so Dr. Chatterjee describes it as being in control means feeling that nothing within reason has the power to overwhelm you. And again, I relate that to that overwhelm as modulating how you respond to the situation and
Mm,
not allowing the situation to control you.
right.
But it doesn't mean that you're in control of everything. So, one last thing, then I'll shut up. Is
Yeah,
Dr. Chatterjee makes a clear point to state that happiness is not a destination. It's not when I get to this or when I have this that I will be happy. It's a journey. So I think of it as me striving to run an ultra marathon, which is not it's on my bucket list, but I'm not there yet. Um, but it is something that you will, in your seasons of your life, it will ebb and flow. But I don't want people to leave this conversation thinking happiness is here. It is
right.
something that is an always evolving conversation.
And it's fluid as well. I mean, I feel like it's fluid as well. I mean, some days it's harder than others to tap into that core happiness. But as long as you could tap back into it, I think that's what's important. And that's where that whole balance stool comes into play as well. Um, it resonated with me so much, especially when he was talking about the want brain, which is something that we just mentioned. So the want brain is that you want something to make you happy. It's always that wanting or desire to fill the hole of something that you're trying to fulfill in order to perceptually think that that will make you happy, and it's not. And I remember a close friend's husband who is not from the United States; he's from another country, mentioned how Americans, particularly, are these ultimate consumers, always buying, always wanting, always consuming. And I was, my initial instinct was defend, like, how dare you tell me that that's what we are, but we absolutely are. I mean, look at it in our social media. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about that too in the phone. But, look at it as it's as if it's always in front of us, something that's better, something, something's going to make you happy because you wanted to lose weight. Here's a pill. It's like, no, that's not going to make you happy. It's actually that journey. And so I actually like to compare it to, you want to get healthy versus losing weight. Right?
Mhm.
Losing weight is just that icing on the cake that comes to getting healthy. That's essentially what this is, right? It's that, again, it's that journey, not the destination with being happy. It's just that constant fluid of the core happiness. But anyway, he tells a story about in his book about his dad and how his dad was working around the clock, was one of the top surgeons, working around the clock, I mean, nonstop, and they actually, his parents fled India, where they could have had a better sense of community, lots of social connection, lots of family around, some of those core values that people often look past because they want the fancier car, they want the bigger house, they want, some of these other things that want brain he describes is leading you to do. And desire. And so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, what, I think in one of his chapters, he mentions, you should think about what you're going to be grateful for and what created happiness for you on your deathbed, right? It's not going to be the car that you bought 20 years ago because it was the fanciest car. Well, guess what? 20 years from now, it's like going to be junk. You know what I mean? Like, so it's one of those things where, it's that journey. It's that, of course, nice things to reward yourself is great, but that's not actually what's going to give you that core happiness. And his father, back to the story of his father, worked around the clock. So came here, worked his booty off,
Mhm.
round the clock, nonstop. And through the years, it got overlooked for so many promotions, but was training these guys. And so he was the one who should have been up at the top, but it didn't happen. So he kept trying to seek it and seek it and seek it. And, through the years, developed an autoimmune disease along with other chronic conditions that really impacted his health. And it's like, for what? And so that's where he talks through, what really is going to make you happy. It may not, you may be looking to get that next promotion at your job because that's essentially what you want to do. But is it? Is it really what you want to do? Because obviously, with more, promotion comes more work, more hours, more dedication specific to that job. So, people need to really tap into being like, okay, is that really what you are wanting? Is that your want brain or something that's going to continue to feed into that core happiness?
Oh, Besame, there's so many things that we could unravel just in what you just said.
Yeah,
And, I think about it even with my transition to the vegan gym. I mean, some people would look at this as a step back in my career or a demotion.
right,
Not making as much money, still working longer hours, but the sense of joy I have in the work I do, there you can't put a dollar value to it. So, for a lot of years I understood the want brain, and I would probably say that, I can understand Dr. Chatterjee's father's desire to aspire to be at the top
right,
of his department, his university. And I think a lot of us think that aspiration to be at the top is
right,
what is either expected of us or what we need to aspire to. But you correctly stated, I think his question is at what cost?
mhm,
Um, and if that somehow chops off three legs of your stool, if you don't have your health, can you have any of these other things?
right,
Um, and your other point about, and Dr. Chatterjee actually makes this point in his book, Feel Great, Lose Weight. And he puts feel great first because losing weight is a great objective way to assess your journey to health. It may not necessarily be the most direct indicator that you
mhm,
are healthier, but to your point around his dad developing these autoimmune conditions, Dr. Chatterjee actually ended up taking care of his dad on his journey toward the end of life. And I'm sure that gave him pause to reflect on, my parents wanted so much for me, and but what did they lose in that
mm,
want to achieve?
mhm,
Um, and sometimes I think it's too late to understand that. And it was actually on Dr. Chatterjee's podcast that, I heard him state, what do you want people to say about you in your eulogy? Or what do you want to say on your deathbed? Do you want them to say, well, Besame had the best car in the world, or she had the biggest house, or she was the best dressed soccer mom on the field?
this is what it looks like, Daphne. This is what it looks like.
Or do you want them, what I would say is Besame is one of my closest friends who,
Yeah,
I aspire to be like her. I love being with her. She inspires me to be a better person. That's what you want people to say
right,
about you. Um, Despite the fact that you are a very well put together soccer mom.
right. Right? Am I doing it today? We will be soccer momming hard today for sure, Daphne. But that's so important. I mean, that is so important. And oftentimes I know a lot of people know this, right? It's not something that we don't know. It's just something to remind, and to tap back in and do it frequently. Right. So here we have the holidays coming up soon, right? We're in the fall. And it's that beyond, it's the favorite part that I have of the holidays is the togetherness with family,
Mhm, mhm.
and the joy I see with my kids. Of course, my kids are a little, we try and teach them like, this thing is not going to make you happy, right? Because in this thing that
Exactly.
you have and that you got today is not going to be really relevant or important to you in, like, let's be honest, 2 days. right? I mean,
It'll
really,
be gone.
what you want, right? And it's just that frequent tapping back into what really does make it, and how are you nourishing that part, right? How are you connecting? And I think he talks through all of these as well. I mean, I think that it's so important for us to continue to remind ourselves what's the most important thing, and what are you doing to fuel it, right?
Mhm.
And what are you doing to nurture that part of you? So it's a lot of it is also, and I know we're going to talk about this, but putting your phone down.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Put your phone down. You know, I call her little. I call her my little cousin. She's not little. She's actually a new mom. And she's in her 30s. And when she got married, mind you, she's a millennial. Sorry, guys. If you're a millennial, listen, sorry. They're constantly on their phone and they think of things a little differently. So she is one of my absolute favorite people. And she said, you know, what would you like for your wedding? And her response would be for you to be present.
Mm.
And she said, please don't take any photos of my ceremony. Please don't take, I have hired a photographer
Mhm.
when she was getting married. I had hired a photographer and I hired, all these other people, and they are taking my pictures. Put your phone down and enjoy the moment with me.
That's awesome.
And I thought, wow, that was quite profound for somebody in her early 30s to say something like that. Anyway, I know I digress, Daphne, but I
Mm,
thought that that's so important because oftentimes we do forget that. We feel like we're missing out, right?
mhm.
We all have
Eh,
FOMO. Let's be honest. We all have FOMO.
but what are you missing the moment? And that's really what you're missing out on? So, I know that we got up early to record because you're heading out with the boys, so I'll keep moving on, but this thing is it's a blessing and a curse.
Mhm.
Um, and, this was another tough chapter, when Dr. Chatterjee talked about treat your phone like a person. Um, and he quoted a statistic. On average, we look at our screens between 200 and 250 times a day, which I know. Can you?
I
Yeah,
can't even fathom that, but it's real. It's reality, people. Like it is reality. We can't we can't go to the bathroom
no.
without putting our phone down. And that he talks about that. He's like, it's like your shadow. And I'm like, wow, that's actually a good way of putting it. Your phone is your shadow. It is. You have it all the time in your hand. Like, walk here. Oh, where's my phone? Oh, I put it down. Okay, let me put it here. And then let me put it here. It's almost like your little baby. It's like, why? Why do we give the phone so much? And I know that it's for convenience sake, or I know that, we're going to get flooded with comments about, well, I need my phone because of that, like whatever it is. It's fine. Whatever the excuse is, fine, but then find time to put that phone away. I'm
Yeah.
guilty of it too, Daphne. I mean, don't like listen, it's easier to preach than do it, but yeah, it's
No,
friend or foe, right?
it, well, and it's funny because, as I was thinking through how I was processing what Dr. Chatterjee was saying, it just reminded me of that, the little mouse running around the maze trying to get the vegan cheese. And I feel like every time we look at this or we click a button or we see a notification, that it's like we got that piece of vegan cheese.
Yeah.
Um, so in a way, we've been conditioned. Because I remember when I trained in the UK, I didn't have a cell phone. When I had to call home, and I called home every week, I had to go downstairs to a payphone with my with
What's
my
that?
card. Exactly. And I would spend an hour talking to mom and dad. But during that time, I was present. I was only listening and thinking about how are they doing? What's going on in the United States? When we're not present, you can be taking pictures and thinking you're present, but you're not because you're not enjoying the moment.
Mhm.
And going back and looking at those pictures doesn't recapture the energy, the emotion, the socialization that occurs and that you're missing when you're thinking about, am I getting this on TikTok or what's my
Right,
reel going to look like? You need to shut it off.
right.
And Dr. Chatterjee has some suggestions from his book. And it's funny because I no longer have my notifications on for most things. Because what I was finding, and this actually happened when I was at Cernical, was that ping for email would come, I would literally start to twitch. Um, and it's not healthy.
Yeah,
So I don't get Instagram notifications. I don't get Facebook notifications. If I want to spend time looking at those, I'll go spend time.
right.
Um, but I'm not constantly getting that hit in my central nervous system that something's happening that I'm missing out on.
That ping, the ding,
The
or the
ding
buzz.
ping.
Yeah, right? Well, one thing that Dr. Chatterjee says also is that we smile 30% less when we have our phones. And so it's one of those things where I'm like, wow. It and this isn't something that it's because you're looking at social media on your phones. No, it's because you have your phones.
Mhm.
So that's something that I think that it's important to set boundaries. Look, you guys, we are in a modern world, right? So the phone isn't going away, and we're not saying it should, and neither is Dr. Chatterjee in his book. What he does strongly suggest is to have some build some boundaries and have some rules, right? So in our family, we do not have, if we're sitting down at dinner, we do not have our phones.
Yeah.
Even if you're eating, it's not healthy to have your phone while you're eating. It is not. Unless, sorry, I'm going to give myself an excuse. Unless my child asks me what uniform they're wearing that night for practice, I'll check it, right? But other than that, it's like put it away, right? And it's not healthy to have that. Give your phone some space. Also, another thing that I do personally is I do put my phone on do not disturb
Mhm.
between specific hours. So,
Yep.
and you know what? I need to use that more often. I don't use it as often because again, I'm scared I'm going to miss something or somebody's going to get in touch with me that, can't wait. But it should be something that we, get used to. Just put it on. You don't have to know everything right then. And sleep is so important. I know you just had a blog post on Wingman Wellness on sleep. So anyway, try and take a look at that. Do not disturb. And I don't think we're saying that you should completely ban your phones by any means, but give it some space, put some boundaries, put some structure, and I think that you'll see a difference. I know we're going to talk a little bit about unplugging, Daphne, and so does Dr. Chatterjee talks about that too. But when you're in like vacation mode, right, and you just want to get every photo out there, it's like it's okay to just get one. Remember when we had those disposable cameras
Yes, I
that you would
do. I
buy at
love
like the
them.
Walgreens? Yeah, they're fantastic. Had no idea what your pictures are going to look like, but you took one, right? You took one. And so that's the type of thing I think that we should, I don't know, this is my opinion, but I don't need that perfect shot. I just want the shot of the moment, right? And so I'll take a picture of my kids if they're on a ride and how excited they are and they're smiling. And I'll take that. And that's it. I don't even know what it looks like, but I just know that that was a moment in time that they were just enjoying, and I'll put it away because then you're going to miss out on all those other moments.
Yeah.
Similar, soccer momming hard this weekend. We had one game, and my youngest, I so happened to was just taking little video clips, and so happened to capture one of his goals. And I was like, yes, I
Oh,
got it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, now I could put my phone away because I got it. I
yeah.
got the shot, right? And so put my phone away. And next thing you know, he scored another one. I was like, oh, I missed it. But you know what? I got one out of two. And so it's one of those things. And he was like, did you get both? I was like, no, because I wanted to be living in the moment
Present.
with you. Yeah, because I don't want to stop record and then cheer. And I wanted to cheer just right then with you. So yeah, it's those. You don't want to miss those little moments.
No. And it's so easy to do.
Mhm.
So let's wrap up by talking about one of Dr. Chatterjee's other chapters, and you alluded to it, which is go on holiday every day. And I know you just got back from a trip with your family, and I don't know, be interesting to understand what holiday vacation means to you. But one thing that Dr. Chatterjee encourages us to do is not wait until next month, next year, 10 years to go on vacation where we think we're going to unwind, disconnect, and have that peace and time to reflect. But why can't you find time to do that daily? And it doesn't have to be, it can be 5 minutes. I know we talked about the 12-hour walk, which was a 12-hour opportunity to disconnect, reflect, and at some point, would love to come back to talking more about some of Colin O'Brady's writings.
Yes.
But Dr. Chatterjee says the same thing. You can find time every day, find space, get the solitude, whether you journal, whether you meditate, whether you do yoga, whether you just sit on the patio with a cup of coffee. Don't wait until tomorrow to vacation, because some of what we seek on vacation, on holiday, are those things that we need to be bringing into our life every day in order to help keep that stool in alignment.
No, I couldn't agree more, Daphne. I mean, I think that we've put vacations on a pedestal that should only happen once or twice a year. And and I agree with Dr. Chatterjee how you should still find time in the day to fill your cup with something that you
Mhm.
enjoy or that will help you clear your mind or ground yourself or something that is for you. And I strongly believe in that. And I think that I can't say that I do that every single day, but I try and do it more frequent than I did in the past. And I think that's the goal, right? So it's not just do it every single day. Like, let's take baby steps. I think he even gives an analogy on health. Like, somebody was like, oh, are you gonna, you haven't exercised in like however many years? And he's like, yeah, but I'm just waiting. I can't run that fast yet. It's like, well, how are you going to start? Like, start with a slow walk, start with
Mhm.
this. So it's like taking those small steps to get to where you want to go. And they're less intimidating and they're more seekable, and you're able to do it. And I think that that's important. So, some of that, maybe having goals. And I think he talks about New Year's resolutions as well. I mean, like, really, people, let's start thinking about how some of the small ways that you want to change, some of the just very small steps, that small little victories in your day of things that you want to do for you. And then you could build on them, and then you can continue to build on them and advance. So I think it's important. I mean, yeah, we did go on a crazy Disney vacation, right? And it was stressed me out more than it was more than it should have. But at the same time, also during vacation, it's so important, those bigger trips, for where you have family time, where you forget about how you have to do everything better than somebody else or everything that somebody else did because you're keeping up with the Joneses. No, you do what's right for you and you enjoy, and whatever's going to enjoy you. So it's like we had to take a break from all the parks and just have a pool afternoon, right?
Mhm.
Just to relax. And because we're on vacation after all, it's not, walking 70,000 steps in a weekend, which we did. So, um, but it's just that enjoyment of being together and talking about what what was best, what you liked best in your day. We call them our highlights. And, so those are some of the things that, regardless of what you're doing or where you're going or who you're with, I mean, it's always important to talk through and realize and, you know, really sort out what was your favorite part of the day. And, it's a part of that. We've talked about this, Daphne, about being grateful. It's just that gratefulness in your mind.
Agreed. And I am currently, I mean, my commitment to myself right now is 5 minutes a day, a minimum 5 minutes. I'm going to go outside and walk 365. And what I'm finding is once I hit the 5 minute mark, that sometimes it becomes 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just such a nice time. And, you notice the color changes in the leaves and how the birds sound in the morning, or, the, it's just, it's a gift to myself that whether it's 5 minutes or 25 minutes, it has become such a vacation and I look forward to it whether it happens in the morning or at the end of the day, I know I'm giving myself a gift. Um,
I put my legs up on the wall every night.
Me
That's
too.
my gift, right? It helps you sleep better at night. And it's, that it's 2, 3 minutes even, it's just perfect. Yeah, it's just a gift to yourself, your vacation.
So, Vesame, thank you for reading this book. Do you want to let our listeners and viewers know what our next book may be and then close us out for today?
Yeah, so I am so in love with Jenna Kutcher. I mean, in a good way.
In a healthy
Uh,
way.
in a healthy way, right? And so we are going to read the book, How Are You Really? And my book fairy got me that as well. Thank you, Daphne. And so we will be reading that and we'll have a podcast review on that book. So if you want to follow along, we could post what chapters we'll be covering, but definitely grab that book. I listened to one of her podcasts yesterday while at the gym, and she's so cool. So yeah, we will definitely be reviewing that book and talking a little bit about that one on our next podcast.
And we hope to see you there. If you are part of the Perfectly Planted community, I want to say thank you. If you would take a few minutes to like, subscribe, leave us a positive review, it really helps us with the social media algorithms to give other people an opportunity to listen to Vesame and I share our reviews on these books. And we love these book reviews, partly because it enlightens us, but we hope that there's at least a seed that we're planting to help you grow in your life and that you can share this with others. So thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Perfectly Planted. Be well.